Hello, I'm Sergio Rodrigues from Portugal. I'm a chemist, not a medicinal doctor. I want to present something about the history of psychotropic drugs development, foolish hope, and we're ready or both or not. As an instructor of chemistry and society and drug development, I think a lot about this problem. So on this presentation, I want to show my conclusion, or at least my reflections. Okay, this is a very famous joke, story of medicine in a t-shirt. So this is story of psychotropic drugs in a t-shirt. In 2000 BC, we can think about eat this mushroom, it's good for you and for your mental health. 1,000 years after, you have this mushroom is eaten here, say this spray. In the 19th century, that appeared this phrase, this superstition, here, drink this potion. Okay, in the 50s of 20th century, this potion is snake oil. Here, take this pill. And nowadays we have this pill as secondary effects. Here, eat this mushroom. But you can think that this is a joke, but science is additive, knowledge is additive. So it appears to be the same mushroom, but probably it's not the same because we have much more knowledge about things. Okay, this is the definition of OMS about mental health. So I think I reflect a lot about this. It's a state of well-being, but not foolish well-being. More than this is the ability to contribute to the community. In the beginning of 19th century, we have a lot of mistreatments. So the moral treatments are at least some very good. Homeopathic treatments are very good. So homeopathy is a nice thing on the 19th century, but now we have some discussion about this. Of course, we have very difficult disease as syphilis. We have here two of some famous, one is Metna, is a musician, and the other is the painter, is Toulouse-Lautrec. They have neurosyphilis, they contract neurosyphilis, and in the end they have much disease and madness related with this neurosyphilis. So they transmit it to all the people. So the only way to solve this problem, we found it in the 20th century, is to have antibiotics and somehow some isolation, all this, and this was not thinking about the time. So in the middle of the 20th century, you have this. Treatment for neurosyphilis is based on malaria. Okay, you can inoculate malaria, and it's created some fever, and they solved these problems on neurosyphilis, and it gave you the Nobel Prize on 1927, Wagner Zorek. Okay. You can think about this is a famous Nobel Prize, and you can think about take it out because it's not a very good treatment. But what was the treatment at the time? So we have to think about the things at the time. Sometimes we know that they are not well prescribed at the time, not well thinking about the time, but we have to think about the time. Of course, foolish hope. This is a cover from UNESCO in 1958. 80% of mental patients can now be cured. Of course, at the time we have discovered chlorpromazine was a very fine molecule, the first psychotropic molecule. It is more or less some years later, we have Union Carbide saying we can solve all the problems with science, all that. This is a foolish hope, because we know that Union Carbide was involved, of course, not responsible, but was involved in this tragedy of Bhopal. So 80% of the mental illness can now be cured based on medicine. But this foolish hope is not really so bad, greedy, so foolish. Okay, here we have another Nobel Prize, is the only Portuguese Nobel Prize of Egas Muniz on 1949. When we tried to find some articles on leukotomy, it was a procedure they have here. It was a procedure only used in the last way, so it was not the first the first alternative. We have 400 articles, more or less, on the databases. But when you look at lobotomy, we have 600. But the strange thing for me is to find that when we try to find both words, we have very few articles. Somehow, the Friedman popularized lobotomy. In fact, in the right, we have the procedure based on, in the top, we have the procedure of Friedman. The procedure of Egas Muniz was different, but the same thing is to destroy some part of the brain. But today, when we look for chlorpromazine, it appeared in the 50s. So after this, after this procedure, it was somehow the only alternative. Freeman thought at the time, it was foolish hope, that all the mental illness can be solved with this procedure. So it started some kind of lobotomy mobile, somehow do some the procedures. It appeared chlorpromazine. It was in America called Thorazine. We have a famous song about this, and it was the first psychotropic drug. But the drugs are not appeared as they are used now. Ritalin appeared in the 50s, 60s, and it was for the mood disorder somehow, to be happy and all this. And Thorazine, we can see on this this announcement. Anyway, in Portugal, it's not allowed to have announcements of drugs, but in the United States it's possible, so we can do a lot of research on this. And chlorpromazine was proposed to the seizure of the children and all this. And of course, okay, the diazepam was to relax. We know that we have some problems with this kind of benzodiazepines, but okay. Okay, we have here a kind of history, my history of these developments. Previously of the 50s, you have only kind of treatments based on convulsive therapies, on insulin shocks, and we have some medicines like barbital, but was very dangerous. Okay, alcohol, it's normally medicine or drug variation, morphine, and all this. And then after the 50s, you have diazepam, and the fluoxetine was a very large revolution. But okay, at the same time, the literature and the society start thinking about this. What is probably they want to sell things to people are normal. They want to try to transform normal people in the heal people and all this. And these discussions on the 60s and the 70s, you have these two famous songs about motherly help is about diazepam. You were happy families about chlorpromazine, take your thorazines and all this. So you have in the 60s, you have also a discussion about anti-psychiatric movements and all this. Okay. Okay, this is in all glory the new medicines that appeared after the 50s. I can pass 10 minutes discussing this, but it's interesting to see that we have a lot of new medicines. Of course, we don't have probably the medicines or the drugs that we want, but for Alzheimer, we have also a new medicine for human desire is flubanserin. Okay, we have, but at the same time, we have a lot of discussion about these medicines on society. This is interesting because if we think about only about drugs, we forget about society. So it's interesting to have this. Okay. Companies, of course, the companies, if they will not sell their drugs, they'll go to bankrupt. So some years ago, I started looking at the companies, the chemical companies, pharmaceutical companies, and in fact, it's a very difficult history, and they have a lot of petrolific companies. We have a lot of details. In fact, I have here Pfizer and Novartis. Pfizer is the biggest one. It started to be the biggest one after the Second World War, where they produce penicillin. They are very small. They had been a very small company, but now they are the biggest one. And now the symbol IG Farben, Bayer, Unicarbide, Monsanto. You know that Monsanto was bought by Bayer, but there's a lot of discussion about this. Okay. This is my knowledge about this from 2018 until now. I start following the index of Forbes, and we found very interesting things. First, most of the companies, the biggest ones, are banks, are insurance, and all. The first one that appeared in the list that produced something, okay, cars, okay, well, it's something, but something to eat is Nestle. As a matter of fact, Egas Muniz was the one that bring Nestle to Portugal. So if you could come to Portugal, if you are interested, you can visit his house in Avanca, is near Oporto. It's very interesting. And the factory is still there. You can, of course, you can have Shell, you can, but at the bottom, you have the history of chemistry, the more or less the stellar moments, or some are dangerous, some are not so good of the development. But in green, I show here the evolution of the positions of Pfizer. You have in 2018, you have 49, and 2020 you have 44, and now 58. So Pfizer will not grow with this vaccination. At the same time, you have Novartis from 68, 63, 65. Okay. The pharmaceutical companies be more or less the same, but you can look at the chemical companies, and for at least, for instance, Bayer was the biggest one. Now is still the biggest one, but in the position 400, and the BASF, sorry, the BASF is the biggest one. You have the position in 400 also. So the chemical companies fall a lot. In fact, DuPont is the biggest one now because it is connected with Dow. Okay. Of course, what we think about people can change our ideas. So I have this announcement. This is very interesting. Okay, but We are artists. Science is a kind of art, so you have to think about outside the box. So you solve problems, sometimes not thinking about specific ideas, but thinking about outside the box. So my answer to the question is, in part, both. But we have, in fact, foolish grade. We have foolish greedy. We have where hope. We have lots of possibilities. There are people that want the good of humanity, people that want only money. So each case is each case. So we have in Portugal a sentence that say a swallow does not make a summer. So it's the idea. Thank you very much. I have to acknowledge Centro de Química. I will not be able to be there because I'm traveling at the same time. But if you want, you can send me emails and discussion. This is a very interesting congress. Thank you very much.